One of the most interesting duels in Game of Thrones was between Prince Oberyn and the Mountain, where our beloved Dornish prince in lighter gear and armed with a spear outfought the heavily armored Mountain. Now history has a number of similar duels, the most well-known one in the Western world being between King Robert Bruce and Sir Henry Bohun. The general message of the story is about using speed and mobility against a more powerful but slower enemy. The Burmese too have a similar duel that is quite close, at least in terms of gear, to the combat between the Mountain and Oberyn. The tale takes place in 1415 during the second half of the 40 Years' War between the central Bamar-speaking kingdom of Ava and the southern Mon-speaking kingdom of Hanthawaddy. At the same time as the French and English were fighting the final phase of the 100 Years' War, the kingdom of Ava was expanding northward, seeking to rebuild the Bagan dynasty. This worried the Chinese Ming government in Yunnan, who sent support to their Shan vassals. According to the Burmese Chronicles, a significant Chinese force had arrived to threaten the capital of Ava. As the Chinese would rather not lay siege, they offered to settle the issue in a duel between two mounted champions. Because Ava's champion, the warrior prince Mye Joswa, was fighting in the south, his father, the king of Ava, Mingao, had to call his lesser warriors to take up the role of a champion, but no one in the army came forth. Mingao was furious at the meekness of his men, so spread the offer to anyone willing to take up the challenge. When someone finally took it, it was not one of Ava's knights, but a prisoner of war named Thamin Bayan. An ethnic Mon from Bago, Thamin Bayan was the son-in-law to the famous king Yazawin of Hanthawaddy and a highly distinguished cavalry officer. In exchange for his freedom, Thamin Bayan offered to be Ava's champion. In the full regalia of a Burmese knight, Thamin Bayan rode out on the best horse available. Outside the city gates, he saw why so many Bamar warriors had refused to take up the role. The Chinese champion was a warrior known in Burmese only as Gamani. According to the Chronicles, he was a tall man covered from head to toe in Ming laminar armor consisting of smaller metal plates lined together and armed with a jeweled-hilted war sword. Despite his bulky appearance, Gamani moved with the practiced ease of a veteran fighter, and to many of the Burmese, he seemed almost like a supernatural figure. We do not know exactly what the Thamin Bayan wore. He is traditionally drawn in unarmored Bamar Mon-style military uniform, but there is written evidence of Burmese armor, which is usually chainmail or thick-quilted cloth armor. Regardless of what he could have won, it appears that he was more lightly dressed than his opponent. His main weapon was a cavalry spear and a Burmese da. He is sometimes portrayed carrying a round shield. The two riders faced each other at the gates. According to the Chronicles, Gamani greeted the Thamin Bayan as an equal, and that they should not shy away from showing off their skills, and the two riders showed off their horsemanship in front of their armies, where Gamani, despite his heavier armor, was able to match the Thamin Bayan's remarkable skills. There are several versions of how the combat took place, although the conclusion remains the same for all versions. According to the Royal Chronicles, it was during their riding contest Thamin Bayan observed Gamani's capabilities. The Mon Knight purposely rode in different styles, leaning forward, standing up on the saddle, and stretching his arms out, all which Gamani was able to do. But as he did, Thamin Bayan was actually studying Gamani's movements and had noticed that the thread tying the armor covering his right armpit was cut and loose, possibly so that he could swing his sword better. Seeing that it was his only chance, Thamin Bayan called out to Gamani that it was time to fight, and rode away. The armored Ming chased him immediately, but just as Gamani was about to close in, Thamin Bayan wheeled his horse around to face him. Just as Gamani raised his sword to strike him, the thread holding the laminar plates broke and exposed his flesh, roughly of around 4 fingers in width, and Thamin Bayan, waiting for that exact moment, thrust his spear into the gap. The blow killed Gamani immediately. Thamin Bayan then cut off his head with his da and presented to the king. With their champion dead, the Ming forces withdrew, and the people of Ava hailed Thamin Bayan as a hero. King Mingaun of Ava was so impressed that not only he released him, but even gave him a governorship and wed him to the younger daughter of a powerful nobleman. Thamin Bayan then stayed in Ava for the next 7 years, serving Mingaun faithfully, and only returned to Lower Burma after the king's death. The friendships he formed there were instrumental in cooling the bitterness between Hanthawaddy and Ava, and it helped brought an end to the 40 Years' War. Thamin Bayan remained one of the most well-known warriors in Burmese history and is celebrated particularly among the Bamar and Hmman people.